I start almost every episode off the same way, to myself at least. And I always say, okay, one take, let's do it. And I don't know why, but that seems to work for me. It's the motivation that I need to put myself in the right train of thought. And I realized, thinking about that this week, that we use motivation as a strange device. And so I want to talk about motivation and morale. I think a lot of us assume that they're sort of connected and that we use them together. And the more I thought about it, the more I think I realized that's not the case, that these two things are separate entities and we need to treat them as separate entities. And we can use them to our advantage if we understand them that way. So motivation is that simple thing, like how I start off and I say, all right, one take, let's do it. And I take a sip of tea and I start. That's motivation. Right? A lot of people appear to think that motivation is a sort of reward. Like, I've done this thing, and if I do it, I'm going to buy myself something cool, right? And we value motivation as a feel-good. It's positive reinforcement. I think that gets into a dangerous cycle because positive reinforcement, if it's not continued, begins to degrade what you're thinking about, right? I don't smoke, but I know people who do. And they say that smoking is always tied to another activity, right? It's trying to equalize your experience of something. So if you eat something, your equilibrium's off and your body's like, get a cigarette. Positive reinforcement, if we use positive reinforcement to achieve something, to accomplish something, I think it kind of falls into that same category, that we're always going to look for that positive reinforcement afterwards. And if we don't get it, then we're going to feel like we're kind of lacking somewhere and that we don't have, something's missing, something's off. And I think that maybe that's part of why our morale begins to drop, because we're not getting what we think we deserve. We spend a lot of time thinking about what it is we deserve, right? I deserve to do better. I deserve better. I deserve more. And that doesn't work for me. I've never been able to get behind that because I don't understand the idea of like, I don't know what I deserve, because I'm not valuing myself that way. The biggest one I see anymore, and it drives me crazy because I think it's such a stupid thing to deserve, is when people say you deserve rest, right? It's for a while, it was all over social media. People just saying like, don't feel bad for taking a break. Don't feel you deserve the rest. And I'm like, well, rest isn't something you deserve. It's a part of your life. You require it. Don't mistake those two things. Don't think that just because you're doing something hard, you deserve the rest. You need it. That would be like saying, great job at life, have a glass of water. And the reality is you need water anyway, so don't reward yourself with it. Don't fall into that cycle of positive reinforcement. I like to use motivation before I do something, the thing that gets me to do it. Whether it's music is a big one for me. I listen to a ton of different music and it usually motivates me to do something. I can find a playlist that'll make me feel a certain way to do a certain activity. I can phrase it in my head so I can see myself doing it differently and that motivates me to go after it too. I don't know. For me, I've never really found a great pattern of buying myself something as a reward to do it. We do it in college all the time though, right? All right, if I do this, then I'm gonna go to the cafeteria, or whatever they call them in college, the student unions, and I'm going to take a break after this final. And I think that's where that pattern starts from. And we use that as motivation. But in reality, the more we get into real life, I think the less that helps. All right? People use motivation for workouts. It's super easy to not have motivation, right? Especially if you work for yourself. It's really easy to look at something one day and say, I'm just not going to do that today. I'll do it tomorrow. Try to pass it off. Try to find another time to do it. And the same thing happens even if you work for someone else. Because I go to work all day and I'm going to come home and I'm not going to go to the gym because I just don't feel like it, right? I could lose all my motivation to put my own life together and I end up just living this career life. And I'm missing all those parts that I want to do myself. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not going outside. I'm not exercising. I'm not taking time to value the things in life that might actually be more important than having a job. We really like to think jobs are important because we're structured around this idea that we need money to live, and that's true, but we've created that for ourselves. So the more we think we need money to live, the more we're willing to sacrifice to get it because we think the more we'll lose if we don't have it. And that kind of goes back to that motivation. What are you doing this for? I'm doing it for money. Why? Because you need to live. And that's my motivation to do it. We're not doing the activity because we might just realize it's a good thing to do. This ties in a little bit to morale, I think, because if you're not doing it well, your morale drops. And your morale is truly just the ability of how you feel doing something, right? Your morale can be good, bad, medium. It could be bored. It's not your morals, it's your morale. And I think most people probably understand that difference, but we don't think about what our personal morale is. If you jump on a stock website or a crypto website or any of those, one of the first things you always see is, what's your feel of the market today? I think it's a really dangerous question to ask people who might not be qualified to answer it, because I might feel one way about a market. I don't have any background in it. I do this for myself. I shouldn't be trajectoring, that's not a word. I shouldn't be, determining the direction of the market because of how I feel. And I kind of stand by that. I'm not sure I want other people like me giving that input, but whatever. Our morale gets tied to what we're thinking about, what our mental state is. I once had someone say to me, they meant a lot to me at the time, that I act like I'm smarter than everyone else. And it really annoyed me because I don't act. I'm not acting that way. It's apparently how I come across sometimes, or it's how they thought I come across, but I can't help it if that's how I think. What bothered me the most about that was, you're not discussing something that I'm doing. You're telling me what you dislike about me. And at the time, that was really important because that was my personality, right? You're essentially saying, I dislike this aspect of your personality. That kind of sucks, especially if it's someone that means something to you. And my morale instantly dropped because I couldn't get myself out of that funk thinking, if that's how I come across to people, is that how I want to come across to people? And if that's how I'm coming across to people, should I tailor that? And I began to lose sense of what I was doing. And it wasn't because I want to act smarter than people. I think that's stupid. I mean, it's fact. Some people might have higher IQs than other people, whatever, but it doesn't mean that you're smarter than a person, right? And it doesn't mean that you can't learn from someone. People have this idea that we always have to learn up. And I don't think learning up is necessarily the right way to phrase it, because I can certainly learn from people who might not be as smart as me. I can definitely learn I've seen people do really dumb stuff, and I can learn. That's not the way to do this. I can also learn from people who are smarter than me. The biggest mistake in this is thinking you're not going to learn anything and just turning the person off immediately, instead of thinking, what can I learn from this person? We don't have to learn up. We can look at a person, see them, not judge their intelligence, and just think, what can I learn from this situation regardless? Ipso facto, that really bothered me. It dropped my morale. And I kind of fell into this cycle of minor self-destruction. I had to learn how to get myself out of that. And a big piece for me, for my morale personally, is talking to myself. I love talking to myself because it talks me in and out of situations all the time. It helps me understand stuff better. This kind of is a way of talking to myself, right? People view social media as this outreach platform. And then there's it started off, social media was a lot of me, right? I do this, I'm doing this. And then it turned into this, you do this, and I can help you do this. And I never liked that because you're not talking to someone when you do this. I don't know who I'm talking to right now. So I can't tell you what you should do. I can't tell you what you deserve. So when I see stuff going back to that you deserve sleep idea, you don't know that. I once had someone try to sell me something by saying I deserved it. I deserve to buy that thing for myself. How do you do that? You don't know who I am. You don't know what I do. You don't know I deserve that. We think a lot about this pattern of what we deserve. And as we do that, we fall further into that cycle of motivation and morale being connected with a reward. And it's sort of this triangle of, do something good, get something you deserve, your morale goes up. But that's kind of fake. It's over and undervaluing your morale based on a simple thing that you think you should be getting in return. We work on a pattern of deriving results that we think we're deserving of. And if we keep doing that, we're either going to overinflate ourselves or underinflate ourselves and realize we're just in this monotonous chain of singular simplicity that we're always achieving the same thing. Just because you think you deserve more doesn't mean you can achieve more. You got to find that step to make it make more sense to yourself. I toyed with this for a while, and this was really one of those things that I still wrestle back and forth in my mind about how to keep your morale up and keep your motivation up. And by doing both of those things, how can you just continue to deliver what it is you expect? Not necessarily what you deserve, but what you expect. I'm not sure I have a formula yet, but I do know if you think good about yourself, and you think well about yourself, you think optimistically, which I'm not good at doing, you do feel better about yourself. And you do ultimately drive a better result. Don't settle for mediocrity. Go get what you want. I had to learn how to get myself. Loki makes an appearance. How do you know that? You don't know what I do. You don't know who I